Welcome to the latest from Heart Standard. Apologies for being 5 minutes late. I was finishing eating my breakfast. I am Joe Sked and I'm joined by Craig Cairns. How's it going, Craig?
Aye, all right. Been we were bored for the last 5 minutes, but other than that, pretty good.
For that. So I do apologise for that. Just constantly chasing my tail. That's it.
It's all good. I'm just having a laugh.
We are here, of course, to discuss Neil Critchley's sacking as Hearts head coach. That arrived at around, if I remember correctly, around 7 p.m. last night. Probably, half an hour after we'd finished recording our post-match video.
Yeah, I was driving home, so I was about an hour behind everybody else by the time I got up the stairs and looked at my phone.
I met a friend in the Tiny Arms, and I was literally just about to leave when I got the notification. So I had to, for the first time ever, take out my laptop in the Tiny Arms and get to work. But yeah, it was.
We were prepped for it though, because we thought
there was that assumption that
we didn't know, but you could just tell from the video that we did after the game, but we did suspect that something could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, we thought about doing the video last night. It would have been better just holding off to today, which we have done and kind of slept on it, kind of. But before we get into it, there's loads of comments already, and be sure if you've, in terms of your views on the Critchley sacking and where next, feel free to put them in the comments, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, and I will try and get around to read them all out. I've got at least one email as well that I need to read out. But first, speaking of things that I need to read out, and very appropriately, Heart Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. And yes, Hearts will have started their own search for a new head coach following Critchley's departure. We'll probably talk about that, not too much in great detail today, and probably look at it later on in the week. You're off next week, Craig, so I've not asked him yet, and he might listen to this or watch this before I do message him, but I might get Scott on during the week and talk about what Hearts should be looking for in their next manager. Something I'm going to try and write up this week and try and get a lot of fans' input into, actually, because it'd be interesting to see or hear fans' thoughts on not only who they'd like, but the profile of manager they would like, and just to see if there's a kind of common consensus. But before we get to that, we need to talk about Neil Critchley. So, as you alluded to, Craig, it wasn't a surprise when it came, was it?
No, it was. I just think if you look at the last few games, go over everything in a nutshell. He's come into a really difficult situation. There's been an initial bump, an initial bounce. There's been a run of games where you can see what he's trying to do. The performance has been there, at least partially, if not the result. And then there's been a disastrous short run of results to see out the year before a great run. And then losing a couple of key games within that, which still kind of turned folk against them, which I can see, or added to the sort of big game narrative. But over the last few weeks, when it's come to the crunch, just before I say all this, the players do deserve a huge amount of blame.
Don't worry, we'll get to that.
For all of this. But if you just look at some of the decisions that have been made over the last few matches, I don't mind a defender going up front for the end of a game for the last few minutes. But I think when when you're doing it 3 crunch games in a row, it starts to look a little bit sort of desperate. I understand that there was a couple of strikers missing for the game yesterday. We don't know about Knox or anything to do with Steinwender, but
he was fit. He was fit. He was just dropped.
Feels like, and I know like sometimes he takes players out when they've played a bit too much football, but I know he's made a few mistakes and he's not been perfect, but I think you've got to look at the context of the situation of how he's sort of become a first-team Hearts player quicker than expected. I still think you're dropping one of your best players when you're already hamstrung up front without Wilson and Shankland, and you're dropping one of your best players in Steinbender, and then you're taking off one of your best players in Benny Beningame at half-time, and not only that, he was probably the best player on the pitch in the first half as well. Again, so yes, there's lots of players that, and that he seems to have relied on Grant all the way through this as well. And I don't know. I know he's been hamstrung by the squad to a certain extent, but I think there's an equal mix there of players having to shoulder the blame here and some of the decisions that Critchley made. And the comments about wanting a moment or a decision to go for you. I know I said this last time. That's not something a Hearts manager should be saying after losing 1-0 at home to Dundee and getting dragged. When your season's essentially over and you're getting dragged into a Terry Butcher's Hibs type situation, then that's not the kind of thing that Hearts fans want to hear, that you're just wanting a moment to go for you so you can get a point at home to Dundee.
Yeah, I'm coming into this without, it's something I'll put on the site tomorrow, kind of looking more detailed at why it went wrong for Critchley. So I've not really gathered my thoughts or written them down, so I might be a bit all over the place. But
as I am,
he just felt there was a moment a few weeks ago, the Motherwell game. I felt that was the point of no return with Critchley. After that, not just the fact that missing in the top six. There's a way to miss out in the top six and still kind of in Critchley's in isolation look at it from a positive. You could put a positive spin on it with him taking over the side that was bottom of the league when he came in, even though the league was pretty congested. But the manner of the performance against Motherwell and the fact that Hearts have got themselves into the top six, straight away you're just thinking that's a massive red flag on top of the inability to win the so-called big games, or the games where, if they're not big games in relation to the season, they're games that mean more to fans, i.e. the derby or playing Aberdeen with teams in terms of challenging the league rivals. Those are red flags. You mentioned his comments in the press, and there's been a few times over the last few months where he said something and was like, as a Hearts manager, you don't say that. And one of them was, and I think he said it 2 or 3 times, was in the build-up to one of the derbies, may the best team win. I don't care who the best team is. I don't care if they win. I just want Hearts to win. And if that means Hearts are putting the worst performance ever, but still win.
Not that one.
That's what I'm looking for.
Not that one particularly, but there were even ones where I would say, he's right. He's probably right in what he's saying, but still, for the optics and the situation that Hearts are in, it's probably best not to say that. So yeah, there were times where there were ones that was like what you're saying, that you just don't say. And then there were other ones where it was in the situation, kind of like when Naismith was going on about margins and stuff,
fine margins,
over and over again. I think that for some fans, they just didn't want to hear it. There shouldn't be fine margins in certain games that we're talking about. And I think excited, even if it's true. Because I think, again, to go back to sort of the players, if Shankland scores that penalty in Bruges, we're potentially talking about a different sort of arc for Critchley. Now, maybe crashes and burns in a different way. Who knows? But again, the Grant penalty up at Aberdeen, the penalty decision at Dingwall, if two or three of those decisions go differently, then Critchley's maybe still Hearts head coach. But Hearts fans don't want to hear those kind of things when they're in a relegation battle, or they've just chucked a 2-goal lead at Ross County or whatever it is.
I'm just going to bring in a couple of Alexander Taylor. I'll bring in a couple of his comments, and I think they're really important to notice. There's loads of really good comments, and I'll try and get around to as many as possible. But Alexander says, went from playing fast-paced, dynamic, non-possession-based football and doing well to the ponderous shit that cost the two previous managers his job. What on earth are we doing? I think that's a really good point, because you look at the Dundee game. The Dundee game was brilliant, and at Dens Park, not the Dundee game there, was because we played. I remembered watching it back, and there's so much to like about that performance. And granted, that was against again a Dundee team who have conceded 71 goals. Also, who had the Dundee side that kept their third clean sheet of the season yesterday. But it was playing direct. It was getting up on second balls. It was defenders not spending too long in possession. And then I just felt Hearts were more direct, but Critchley talked about wanting to be having more possession. I've always felt that over the last couple of years, is Hearts' most enjoyable performance from a fan point of view have been when the possession share might be in the other team's favour, or it's 50-50, or Hearts have got 50. See when it's 55% or over 55% of the ball, if Hearts have got, and you just know it's going to be a slog and it's going to be difficult. So yeah, there's been a massive regression on that side of things, and that kind of leads on to another fantastic point from Alexander Taylor, and I mentioned it in an article earlier in the week about remember hearing the line, he'll do well now. He has time on the training pitch to implement his own ideas. Since he's had that time, it's been a total expletive car crash. I'll let those listen fill in their own decision there.
But he got that good. He did have that good run. I mean, was that not just after? That was after Hearts were out of Europe.
Yeah, but there were still midweek games with in the league, so there was a wee spell. But there's been a longer period where Hearts have been playing Saturday, Sunday, Saturday. There's not been many.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with the overall point that it hasn't worked. I'm not meaning to push back too much on the point. I'm just saying that, I think that whatever the reasons were, there was a good run in there after the year, and I think part of that came when he had some extra time on the. Part of that at least came when he had some extra time on the training ground. But it's another. Sorry, on you go.
I know. I was just going to say, there's just been too many. It's kind of the reverse of what he wanted, where he came in and there was gradual progression. Then there was a wee bit of a setback around Christmas where we had the Kelly game, the Hibs game, the Petrol Cup game. Again, games that are red flags. The Ross County game where he made a couple of Kelly, yeah. But you could look at the Ross County game and go, should have had a penalty. That was a kind of mistake, but then should have held on to a 2-goal lead. He makes a couple of changes on hindsight, weren't great changes, and then it got better again, but then it's regressed, and it's when you're looking for the bad moments to come early on, and then it to get better and better and better, and then you can build momentum, but that momentum stalled and regressed. And you look at the Diamond, I thought it was a kind of smart decision initially, but then you get players back, and the Motherwell game, leaving Shankland and Devlin on the bench for a must-win game, two of your best players. Devlin's been, before his head knock, was the most informed player, and then Shankland, I know there's a debate to be had around his involvement, but let's face it, he's one of the best players in the Hearts team, and Hearts are a better team with him in it. Even if he's not scoring, he's contributing in other ways. And to have them on the bench and having to bring them on because the performance is so bad, yeah, it's just there's been too many question marks that have come up recently at a point where the team has, and the season has unravelled, and to the point where Hearts are looking over their shoulder.
Yeah, and all the progress has been rapidly undone over the last few weeks, it feels. There's just, I totally agree about that point about it just becoming more ponderous. You look at the games like Ammonia and Nicosia early after Critchley came in, or even the Heidenheim game that Hearts went on to lose. the performance in that game is exactly what you're talking about. It's not necessarily all possession based. It's trying to blitz a team in the first half, and then okay, maybe you have to ease off just naturally a bit in the second half. But the idea, like you've referenced before, like the Burley teams did, where they won the game in the first half by just going at it right away, a direct style of play. There were some sort of signs of that at the start, but it has just become, for whatever reason, it has just become that much more ponderous play again. And look at the team that finished the game yesterday. I mean, it's from the sort of settled lineup that Critchley had not too long ago to that mess that finished that game yesterday. That it's some fall.
I don't know if I can't remember if you mentioned it here or it was when we were talking earlier on over the phone. Bringing Kabangi off. Kabangi was rubbish yesterday, but bringing him off when you're needing a goal, we just like
finishing with a defender up front, instead. And then there was Forrest. Vargas came back in for the first time in 4 matches. Musa had come on at half time. Kingsley was playing centre back.
Danda.
Grant,
did you mention
Danda? Danda had come on. He had moved about. I think he had moved a few different shapes, tried a few different shapes. It was a 4-3-3 at one point. It was.
You mentioned Grant there, and he's someone again splits opinion in the Hearts fan base, and I suppose the opinions certainly more on the negative side. I think there's clearly a talent in football there, but he's not produced enough during his Hearts career, and fully accept that it's time for him to move on in the summer out of contract. That's not worked. But with him,
sorry, I accidentally disconnected my earphones, and I'm having a wee bit of a queasy moment because my medication, I probably took it at the wrong time to affect me when I came on here. But who were you talking about? Because I just plugged in when.
Grant.
Okay,
just about him splitting opinion. The opinion's more on the negative side, but the fact that he's likely to leave. Well, he's more than likely to leave in the summer. But it seems like the last few weeks the team's been built around getting him.
First name on the team sheet doesn't get. Well, he has been taken off, but it was just yesterday. He wasn't subbed off when. Yeah, and then he was affecting the game in the first half, and he didn't in the second half.
He got moved position to keep him on the pitch. But I'll bring in some comments, and there's some questions in here that I can fire at you, Craig. And so apologies, this will be all over the place, but there's loads of comments. Peter Douglas says we can point to pretty much every player and blame them. The squad is minging. I'd keep Benny Penrice and any of the JT signings, play them in their preferred possessions, and the rest can go. The lot. That kind of points to the fact that the players definitely there are culpable. There's a lot of guys there who have been under Nielsen when Nielsen left, Naismith and Naismith left, and then Critchley, and then the vast majority of players who have been overseen 2 managerial departures. I don't think the squad, the more the season's gone on, has just looked like weak and collectively weak and imbalanced. But at the same time, there's still enough quality in there individually for them not to be in the bottom 6.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Hearts have, both are true. Hearts have underperformed. There's quality in there. There's enough quality in there, and it's not performed well enough, and that's why Hearts where they are. And it's a mixture of players that maybe should have been moved on before, or shouldn't have been given the length of contract that they had, or shouldn't have been brought in the first place. There's a mixture of things going on there, but yeah, the squad is a bit of a mess.
Burns Ewan says he was never good enough, but no matter who comes in, we can have Jurgen Klopp at least 15 players need bin from the squad, nowhere near the standard required. Thomas says recruitment of players has been genuinely horrific year after year. The amount of crap we sign is astonishing. Whole squad needs emptying apart from a few of them. Won't hold my breath though. Logan HMFC says, I feel for Critchley. That squad is horrible, but some of the decisions have been baffling. I have no confidence in the board appointing the right man, unfortunately. We'll come back to that. Oscar Isla says his goal was top 6. He had plenty of opportunities to secure that goal. He failed, unfortunately, and failed in what we perceive as big games. He was on a good run and changed everything. The circumstances around Critchley's appointment are disgracing all the botched job by the board. I pray this Bloom stuff actually comes through because we are a basket case, says Alexander Taylor. Again, I left out an expletive just for I can let you, whoever's listening, I can just make up your own mind what goes in there. Hide current call. Sorry, I'm just getting. He played a massive part in the current failure. We don't think he should be anywhere near the job until the end of the season. Always hard to give a decent person the boots. We had to go, says Jez Campbell-Smith. Sad but relieved Critchley went. I've noticed Joe Savage has been largely exempt from criticism despite being the man who gave Naismith the options to buy such underwhelming players and completely destroy the momentum built up last year. And the Gorgie Boys podcast says Critchley seemed a nice guy, but this job was too big for him. Tactics, subs, team selections, all baffling at times. Yesterday was a performance we have seen too often. Let's see if we can move this on. I suppose I'll come back to comments, but there's an email I got from this morning from Tom Gill. He put it in, and apologies, it's a longer email, so bear with me. Hi, Joe. I, along with a lot of other fans, I suspect, kept refreshing my YouTube subscription button last night to catch you and Craig's take on Critchley's departure, and when it finally appeared, you'd gone.
I did suggest that.
But the time I got home, I just wanted a couple of pints. Help me understand why the board has fired him now and left Fox in charge for arguably the most commercially important 4 matches of the season. Do they think he's more capable than Critchley of getting a tune out of that confident shot squad? Or do they think that Critchley has become so toxic to performances that he must be removed from the squad immediately? Why not leave him in place to try achieve safety and get rid at the conclusion? After all, his points per top 6 and he'd done well against the very teams we're going to be battling it out with. So that's the first half of the email. I don't know what your view on that is, but I just think there needed to be a change, any kind of change, and I understand why people are questioning Fox being interim manager because he's been part of the coaching staff. But when he last came in, there was definitely, well, maybe not an uplifting. Well, there was an uplifting results, but performances to an extent as well. I know he's well liked and respected within the squad, so he seemed the most sensible step. I just don't think Critchley. I just felt that something needed to happen. That's it.
Well, naturally, when you have an interim manager, unless you specifically go out and get somebody for the like Dunfermline did with Neil Lennon or something like that. We're too close to the end of the season to do anything like that. So it's natural that somebody steps up on an interim basis. Liam Fox did it earlier in the season, did an okay job at it. But he got Hearts' first win of the season, at least. It was a decent performance at Pittodrie as well, but that's the same old story against Aberdeen all season. A decent performance and not winning the game. So I would like to think he'll be fine until the end of the season to get Hearts. I mean, we're not expecting anything other than just like, don't get dragged into the relegation playoff. That's what we're looking for. Now, I think he's got it in him to do that. As you said, he seems to have he'll have enough buy-in from the players, I think. I think people look at Fox's managerial career and perhaps read too much into it. I think that from what everybody seems to say, Liam Fox is a well-respected coach within Scottish football amongst lots of people within the game, and he's gone in and done a really good job as assistant and as on coaching staff at many different clubs, and he's respected by a lot of people in the game. He's maybe had some jobs that have been, I don't know, like either difficult or maybe he's got them a bit too early in his career or something like that. So I think that Hearts will be, famous last words, that'll get clipped and used against me at the end of the season, but I think Hearts will be fine with Liam Fox. To go back to another point that was made in that email about acting now, I don't know about things getting toxic. They certainly were in the stands, and there was a lot of apathy there as well, which can't be understated or ignored. But I think it clearly come to an end. There's no point just what's the word? Thingy into the end of the season.
Kicking the can down the road.
That's it. Just do it now, and then start the search, and give yourself enough time to make an appointment at some point at the end of the season.
It's interesting that the statement didn't say that it was like interim till the end of the season. It was basically just it's kind of interim. So try and find out this.
This Darren Ross quote saying, wasn't Ross County Liam Fox's first game after Nathan? Yes, that was Hearts' first point in the league, I think. It wasn't a good game. It wasn't. I'm sure you tweeted after that game. Hearts are in a relegation battle. But
I was proven to kind of be correct. But yeah. So on hopefully get a bit more clarity in terms of what's going to happen between now and the season, and also who's going to be part of Liam Fox's coaching staff. I imagine Angus Beef would potentially step up now the B team season's finished. But I would just think it'd be a wee bit. It'd be a risk to appoint someone and just immediately put them into like a firefighting situation because the last thing you want is a manager like you're trying to appoint a long-term manager. I was like, oh, by the way, can you these 4 games, can you make sure that we don't get dragged into a player?
If it was January or something, that option's open to you. Like I said, like what Dunfermline have done or something, that option's open to you, but not with 4 games to go.
Yeah, absolutely. A friend, won't name names, mentioned yesterday in the pub that it's like, what's Paolo Sergio doing? Because just get Sergio and Gary Locke as interim coaching staff. And by the way, you would struggle to get a ticket for Dingwall. There would be a massive lift certainly within the supporter base.
Pasquale Bruno was at Tynecastle yesterday.
Yeah,
maybe they've spoken to him while he was there.
Just get good vibes. That's just people with good vibes and folk that Hearts fans like. That's at least you'll kind of get a wee bit of excitement on that end. I'll just finish reading Tom's email before we move the conversation on. It says, another thing that puzzles me is people say he's a nice guy, too soft to command respect, etc. But it was certainly ruthless with Barry Mackay, arguably the most skillful creative player on our books. Seemed to come to a very early view and bend them completely.
Vargas too. You could argue with the comments with Vargas, he never really recovered in Critchley's eyes after that.
And my own view on Critchley is that he's no doubt a first-class coach, understands the game inside out. I believe he's one of only 16 to achieve UEFA's elite badge worldwide. He knows the theories all right. Just on that, this is me speaking, that was like, I think it was an English FA thing, and it was like ran for 1 year, so I wouldn't read too much into that. Going back to what Tom says, but I don't think he's a man-manager. He's not a leader who inspires confidence, and I don't think he's tactically astute. Compare him with McInnes at Kelly, who instantly made changes when they lost a man very early against Hearts, and Critchley had no answers. There are critical flaws in a head coach. Surely the squad was woeful when he took over, lacking pace above all. But the great coaches can get a tune out of a bang average squad. See what Steve Clark did at Kelly. Anyway, rant over. I look forward to following you and Craig over the remainder of the Dyer season. Your broadcasts are like a very welcome therapy group. I'm not sure I would say this is therapy, but I don't know how other people feel.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks very much for your email, Tom, if you are watching / listening. I suppose I'm just trying to look at the comments to move this on. Yeah, so Alexander Taylor's thoughts on Fox, I suppose.
I'll add one thing in that just came to mind while you were reading out that email. Another sort of bad sign is the changing things at halftime was happening. I mean, I know that it was forced on him for the Aberdeen semi-final, but the 2 games either side of that kind of must wins, if you like, he's got it wrong and changed it at halftime, and then still not got the result. So yeah, more sort of bad signs, I guess.
So that's Neil Critchley's tenure at Hearts. We could stay all afternoon and discuss elements of that. To kind of move on, Oscar Isla's dad, and there's a few comments in this similar, asks, when does the board start looking at themselves? Surely McKinlay should be out answering questions. He's as much to blame as the manager. Critchley came across as a good coach. Now, quite understandably, I think once the frustration and anger of full time yesterday and the sacking, eyes have moved from the dugout to the boardroom, and it's very much clear. It's very clear that there's a growing number of Hearts fans who, again, understandably, quite rightly, have lost faith, trust in the board to get decisions right, because this was a big managerial decision replacing Stephen Naismith, who in itself was a big decision. And you look at it, there's been more wrong than right. And Neil Critchley was clearly the wrong choice. And they've gone from a position of strength where we'd finished third, fourth, third, probably should have been third, and the money that's been invested, benefactors, Foundation of Hearts, the money that's came in from Europe, a great opportunity to kick on and really make Hearts like the third team in Scotland and put distance between ourselves and Hibs and Aberdeen and the rest of the league. But we're now in a position where the squad needs significant change, looking for my third manager in a year, finishing bottom six, potential battle to stave off the relegation playoff. And well, Critchley, as we've gone through, deserved kind of a lot of critique and criticism. There's a bigger, wider picture here that fans are quite rightly asking and criticising and being angry about that. And that's kind of, everything's been overseen by the hierarchy, and things have stalled and regressed, but regressed at quite a stark pace, where now you're just, it's essentially having to rip everything up and kind of start again in the summer, when it's a mental position to be in. But as the comment says, Kenley, someone at the club should have to come out and sit down, and whether it's with press as a whole or individuals, and answer fans' questions on the back of this latest kind of farce, disaster. And I think there's certainly a lot of questions to answer.
I know it's not just Andrew McKinley's decision. I know it's a collective decision, but he's been the face of the quarterly updates. He was the man who sat by Critchley when he was unveiled as Hearts manager, and predicted that he was confident that he would get Hearts moving in the right direction. So it would probably be good to hear from Andrew McKinley at some point in the near future. I think that's probably owed to Hearts fans. I know there was one after missing out on the top six, but a lot's happened since then, and I think Hearts fans deserve to hear an account of what's happened, why the decision was made, and what the next steps are. I think Hearts fans are owed that.
Yeah, and someone mentioned Karen Bell says looking forward to Graeme Jones' contribution. I think he might have been decisive yesterday. With Graeme Jones, this is another awkward issue within the season, is that Hearts replaced Stephen Naismith and they didn't have a sporting director in place. Like, Graeme Jones was still with the SFA, so he wasn't coming on board until November. He was heavily involved in the recruitment of the manager, the talks, and he spoke really positively about Neil Critchley, as you probably expected him to do at the Foundation of Hearts event. So that was kind of like one of his first involvement in a head coach. So it's it was be interested to see how things change. But there's I kind of wrote it today that people look at Jamestown and see what Jamestown produce for managerial options, but then it's actually on Hearts to decide because what Jamestown analytics, they're not going to tell you, is this guy a good man manager? Would this guy be able to handle the pressure of being a Hearts head coach?
I mean, I don't know. You don't know. Without knowing exactly what's in this, how it works or what they feed in. But yes, I think what's happened with Critchley, there's maybe a good argument for somebody could look good that they improve players or they've done this and they've done that. But I don't know, different clubs have different characteristics, and does it show up pressure situations? As you know what I mean? Like, does it take into account things like when matches mean more than a statistic? If you see what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's difficult, and it sounds like I feel like I sound like a wee bit of a dinosaur trying to talk about the analytics and that. You know what I mean? But there is a certain element of not knowing exactly how it works and how we just know that it has been successful in the past for certain clubs. But I don't know. And just to add, one of the comments that I wanted to bring in was Michael Bannerman here. He says, do you guys think the club will stretch the budget to bring in a better quality of head coach? I don't really think it's to do with budget. I think it's just
I think there is an element of.
Do you not think it's to do with choices?
No, I think it's a combination where there is choice out there, but to go to the next level of coach who might get pinpointed that you need to pay to get a good level of coach. I do think there's something in there with needing to go out and get a manager who is kind of a decent track record, and I suppose that's
well, they have to do that now. Regardless of who they appoint, they have to appoint somebody who's going to be successful. They have to get this one right, because there's going to be an absolute mutiny if they don't.
Yeah, Ryan Walker says Hearts need a strong manager. That's two managers they've chucked under the bus, and it was the right time to get sacked. Really, it was the right time to sadly get rid. We had more fighting effort in the team of kids that got relegated. Ian W says, I want a safe pair of hands for the next appointment with familiarity and proven record in the Scottish game. I want a return to big physical Hearts. Amen. And but that's not too concerned about style.
I don't necessarily disagree with all that, right? But is there a fear of kind of chucking the baby out with the bathwater and going back too much to what was before, and then it being in direct sort of contrast to what the club's trying to do to move forward?
That's something that needs to be.
Not that I'm saying like one's right and one's wrong. I'm just saying like there's a potential conflict there. And is there a fear of going back too much to just a motivator and a man manager? And I don't know.
But you're right to ask that, because this is where Hearts need to again explain what they want in terms of the style going forward, the strategy. Graeme Jones spoke about at the foundation of Hearts event, where he's had meetings with Andy Webster, Shelley Kerr himself, and Neil Critchley about what, like, a Hearts identity going forward. They need to decide on that and think, what do Hearts fans want to see? What do Hearts fans? What's the type of team that Hearts fans identify with, and kind of go from there. Someone asked Graeme Jones, like, what is that style going to look like? And he basically just said, you'll need to wait till next season. But Hearts fans should be able to know that, or have that communicated to them, that this is the identity that we want from Hearts. This is strategy going
at least forward. Like principles, if not given any secrets away or whatever. Just to kind of add to what you're saying there as well, I think what Hearts are trying to do as well now is sort of reduce, even just by the name head coach, try to reduce the importance of that one person and not have to have a big clear out every time that you do change that person. So you have the structure that kind of around it. As the head coach, I mean, like the structure in place stays around it. Hence, kind of like appointing things like a sporting director and a set piece coach and these kind of things. These are the kind of things that are supposed to stay in place continuously, even if the sort of head coach changes. But now it seems Hearts are in a situation where the ideal candidate would be somebody who is a head coach and improves players, tactically astute, all those kind of things, can deal with sort of the recruitment, not largely being taken out of their hands, but the sort of that being that diffusion of responsibility for recruitment, yet still has that sort of, I don't know, proper Heartsman vibe to them, and can have a good derby record and know how to motivate for certain games and things like that. That seems to be, I mean, whether that candidate is out there, that seems to be what would be the ideal.
Yeah, I mean, I know fans will have there'll be different opinions on what they want to see, but I don't know. As a fan, I quite like going to watch Hearts that like a Hearts kind of identify with, or you look at the manager in the dugout and you think, right, he knows what it means. He knows what it means.
Diego Simeone.
No, now we're talking.
We need to find our Diego Simeone.
Well, as I said, I'll wrap up very shortly because I'll do a video later in the week looking at what type of manager Hearts should be looking at. And apologies for not getting around to all of your comments and questions. There's so many, which I very much appreciate. Like Dan and Ross asking, would you agree with the point? Neil Critchley is one of the unluckiest managers we've had. There's an element with that, just where, again, going back to what Craig said about moments. Michael Bannerman asked, can you remember some of the comments when you had the interview evening with Neil Critchley? There was a lot of, again, I thought he came across really well that night and said a lot of the stuff kind of wanted.
That's it. I mean, we were talking earlier about him saying things that he shouldn't have, but he did say a lot. Like he got a lot of things right in what he said as well. About it sounded like he did make an effort to, and it wasn't just for show. He made an effort to sort of understand what the culture is and to deliver that. And so yeah, there was a mixture of him saying the right things and it not just sounding like lip service. But there was those other things we talked about, like may the best team win before a derby and things like that.
And finally, James Govan asked, maybe a question for towards the end, but do you find it difficult on occasions like yesterday to stay professional and not just absolutely slaughter Critchley and the players?
I mean, no, I don't think so. I think I would say my overriding thing, because the fans still in there when you're sitting watching the game, obviously, I was more on the apathetic side. Yesterday, that was kind of, if I had been a fan, I either would have been one of the ones that wasn't there, or I would have been one of the ones just sitting there not making much noise. I think I felt sort of apathetic as a fan yesterday. I don't know about yourself.
I would have 100% been in the pub by halftime, or by the start of the second half.
Of course, I actually had to talk you out of that.
You try, and that's what sitting in the press box, you try and remove a lot of emotion. It's hard. Like yesterday, I remember sitting, must have been felt like 2 minutes with my head in my hat when Musa headed about 10 yards wide. I think it's
felt like that when he came on at half time.
It's more difficult just like doing these videos where you don't want to. It's the balance between not like expressing your opinion and not wanting to disrespect people that are watching and listening, and by kind of not by saying what I think, but also trying to balance it between just trying not to annoy anyone, because you do have to have relationships and you have to kind of work with people, and it's making sure that when you are being critical, it's you've got reasons to back it up without overstepping the mark. So yeah, I do find it difficult a lot of the times, but it's a balancing act.
I mean, I find it difficult not to say things. I'm not like absolutely tear into the players or whatever the term was that the comment said, but I mean, sometimes you want to be more critical than you can be in a professional capacity. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it.
But at the same time, I wouldn't want somebody doing that to me.
Yeah. I mean, used to abuse, it's fine, or used to criticism, it's fine. But no, it's one of those where I don't want to like. I mean, we can all see issues, and I don't want to. The last thing I don't want to do is try and say stuff that's like everyone can see is incorrect, which is, but trying to maintain that balance. It's an ongoing process. I don't think I'll ever get my head around.
Yeah, aye, it's a difficult one sometimes, but I don't know.
See when the team are doing well, it's so easy because I naturally you just go overboard with positivity, and then it's difficult on the flip side. You're just going like, don't go too overboard negative wise, but hopefully better things are around the corner. And
yeah, like a trip to Dingwall on Saturday.
trip to Dingwall on Saturday. I was actually going to say the League Cup, which starts the middle of July, but well, anyway, we'll leave it there. We're just rambling. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening and staying with us. Thank you very much, everyone, for commented. There was a lot of great discussion and comments. I was reading through it as we're speaking. But we'll be back at some point next week. Craig's also get a couple of guests on, and we can discuss what's going on at Tynecastle, get different people's views on the club and where to go next. Be sure to check out heartstandard.co.uk. Put up a piece today on just looking at the fan view, looking ahead to looking at the board rather than the dugout, and probably tomorrow looking a bit more at Critchley's tenure, and then about where Hearts should go next coming up. So until the next time, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, Craig, and goodbye.